This is Demiworld.
Oh my God!
How you liking Portland so far?
I like it. It's pretty. There's trees everywhere where we're at. We're in the Southwest, so it's lots of windy roads and just trees and not a lot of sidewalks. There's walking paths and biking paths everywhere, which is super awesome. There's amazing parks. Everybody's super friendly.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, because when we went to Canada, there's this perception of Canadians, and I don't want to badmouth an entire country, but in Vancouver, we were like, oh, really excited. Like, everybody's supposed to be really, really nice in Canada. And they are polite, but they're not friendly.
Right.
And there's a big difference. Here, people are friendly.
Right.
Like, you walk outside and your neighbor's like, hey, how you doing? How's it going today? And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
people are speaking to me.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, they chat with you at the park. They
People
chat with
are
you
really
in
friendly
line.
in Colorado too.
I think they're just really friendly outside of California.
No, because, I spent the summer in Wisconsin and people are nice in Wisconsin, but they're not overly friendly, I
Okay.
would say. There's a little bit of standoffishness or like a
Guardedness.
little guardedness. Like if you
Yeah.
really start to be really chatty with some people and with maybe not in Madison so much, but other places in Wisconsin, they'll kind of look at you like, why are you talking to me? It's like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that we couldn't have a deep conversation unless like you've known me for 30 years or so, they're kind of like, why are you speaking to me? And it's like, oh, okay. I got it.
Yeah.
Go do your thing.
Yeah, and it's just, it's been very, really nice. But the one hiccup that hasn't happened yet, but it might happen in the future is Odin has to redo his IEP here.
Mm-hmm.
And for anybody who doesn't know what an IEP is an individual education plan for kids that have disabilities or behavioral issues or Asperger's, which unfortunately isn't classified as an ailment anymore. It's not a disability. So
Sure.
Kids no longer get IEPs for that. They can get it for autism, but not for Asperger's and for ADHD, which is what he has. So we have to redo it. I'm like, oh. This hopefully won't be a nightmare like it was in California where they didn't
No,
want
I
to
think
give
it'll
it
be
to
better in
us.
California. No, it'll be better.
I'm
in California.
hoping. So far, the school psychologist called me and talked to me for half an hour yesterday.
No,
I just wanted to touch base with you about Odin. I'm like, wow, this never happened in California.
California just doesn't have the resources.
They don't. They have so
Period.
many people. Many people.
So, I think you'll probably be happy. He has to redo his IEP there. I think it'll probably be more beneficial.
Yeah, I'm hoping. And, even when you really think about it, like the Portland school district, there's a lot of people here. It's like 200,000 people in Portland. Mm-hmm. There's only 65,000 in Nevada where I was living. So you'd think that maybe they would have more time, but no.
It's just where resources are allocated and whatever, how many schools there are, how many students there are per school.
Right,
and then I would
right.
think that states vary on as far as education goes. So it's possible California schools have more requirements than they do in Oregon or something like that they have to fulfill and things like that.
Yeah, it changes from state to state. We didn't realize that. It actually changes from district to district too. Like if you go from one district to the next in the same state, you probably have to redo your IEP. I was like, oh, that sucks.
So what I learned, because I kind of started classes this last week, is I had School's in, not fully. It'll be like full swing after Labor Day, but it's starting. So, but it sounds like the new thing that this year that professors are having to worry about that I've never heard anyone speak of in post-secondary education before is active shooter training.
Yeah. Matt's doing the same thing at his school, and it's elementary. And he's like, I think I might want to teach college instead of elementary because there's just so much you have to watch out for with taking care of people's kids.
Yeah, allergies is a big one, my understanding, that food allergies and then active shooter stuff. And also, I think primary and secondary would be tough to be a teacher.
Yeah.
Because you're responsible for other people's children. In college, they're all adults.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if there's an active shooter on campus and you're having a class, like you being in charge of the class, like you have to take control of the situation and make sure that your students are safe. And that sounds terrifying.
Yeah, so the professor, he kind of gave everyone a rundown on what would happen if there was an active shooter on campus, because I think they're just in a classroom with one door. So he was like, you need to make sure you get here on time because we're going to lock the doors 2 minutes after class starts in case there's an active shooter on campus. That's like what we're going to do.
And what state is this class in?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Pennsylvania, I think.
Yeah, they just had a couple of big shootings in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
They had one where like 11 cops were, none of them, I don't think any of them were killed, but they were all injured. They were all shot by, I think they think it was a single shooter.
Yeah.
You know, it's just crazy. Like somebody just started shooting. You know, just
I mean, that's
shooting
just
people.
the state of, that's just the way that it is now. It really sucks.
It really sucks.
I don't think people understand. I mean, there's obviously other countries in the world that have more of it, like who have terrorists and fundamental religious groups that are very dangerous. And so I don't think we're like the most dangerous country in the world. But I do know that other countries have started putting like travel warnings on the United States. Like we are, you know, like we have a system here where we grade green, yellow, red for how safe it is to travel to other countries. I think we've, you know, some countries have put us on the red list because we have such a problem with shootings, gun violence.
I don't blame them. I mean, you want to keep your citizens safe too. You want to make sure that they're aware. And I know a lot of people, when I was in Canada too, like none of them would ever travel to the U.S. without travel insurance.
Right.
Because they do not trust the medical system here. And I'm like, yeah.
Right.
It's pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
It's pretty, people can lose their houses because they get cancer.
Yeah.
It's not okay.
Right.
Not okay.
There's so much that's not okay about this country.
Yes, and every country. But, you know.
What I'm most worried about right now is the fact that the world's lungs are on fire.
Oh, I know. The Amazon's been burning for what, 2 weeks now? And first I ever heard of it, I was like, really? Why haven't I heard anything about this?
Yeah, but how soon did you hear after Notre Dame started on fire?
It was on fire.
Exactly.
It was on fire when I heard it was on fire.
Exactly.
It's still burning.
Such bullshit. I've actually stopped eating meat.
I did too. About a year ago or so, we stopped eating meat.
I stopped eating meat a couple months ago, and I started doing it for, I guess you could sort of say, like spiritual reasons. I really I don't want to eat anything that has a face. I don't want to eat anything that feels pain. Try not to eat anything that has a central nervous system. And so, but I am consuming shellfish here and there because I'm feeling like they don't really have brains. I don't feel like a shrimp really, you know, I'm like a shrimp doesn't really have a face and I don't think it feels pain. It's kind of like, I don't know.
They eat with a mouth. They kind of have like a mollusk on the other hand. Definitely does not have
a
face.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. And so snails and oysters are definitely good for me to eat. But anyway, long story short, I'm happy that I think it's good for me to cut meat production out because of things that are going on in the Amazon and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, there was like no big deal. We just stopped eating it and it was like, oh, all right, whatever.
I hardly ate meat in the first place. And so, but I kind of feel like I did after I stopped eating cheese for a while. I feel better. Like I feel heavier when I'm eating meat, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, like I just feel lighter. I think my bowels are probably moving a little bit better, but I'm also taking fiber every day. And so that really helps a lot.
Yeah. I mean, we eat a really high fiber diet. We have like green smoothies every day and salads and, you know, and whenever I'm making a dish or something, I put like 5 times as many vegetables in it as it calls for.
Right.
But keep the grain the same.
Right.
I'm like, that's okay. We'll just have we can have it for 2 nights now instead of 1. And it's way more veggies. Veggies are great for you. Yep. Everybody should eat them.
Yep. I'm not the best at eating vegetables, got to be honest.
Well, that's why it's nice to have a green smoothie. You can throw a bunch of spinach in there. It tastes like bananas and ice cream. And you're like, you got your veg.
See, my issue with the green smoothie is I'd have to make it on my own, and that is not happening. Because it's hard for me to make food. And so I could buy like the little smoothie drinks in the store.
Mm-hmm.
But wheatgrass makes me burp so bad.
Oh, I don't do wheatgrass, and I don't do spirulina. Ugh.
Okay. Yeah, I mean wheatgrass,
Ugh,
but it's hard to find
nauseous.
it's hard to find green drinks that are already made in the store that don't have wheatgrass. It's hard.
Well, it's all that cellulose. We're not supposed to eat.
But I do eat like a green vegetable every night. Like I'll either have broccoli or asparagus for dinner in between like my bread and in between my Mediterranean diet of bread and cheese.
Right.
And pasta.
Yeah. Pasta, rice, delicious stuff.
So, what are we talking about today?
Today, we are talking about entertainment or Hollywood urban legends.
That is correct, Cindy. That is what we are talking about.
I kind of went a little bit off book. I feel now like I have this anxiety. Like, you know, back in school, you would get an assignment, you write a paper and go, I think I wrote the wrong paper. So,
right. Yeah, right.
I'm kind of having that right now. I'm like, well, if I had time, I might rewrite this. But I'm like, nope, fucking doing it.
Yeah, free balling it. Let's see what
Balls
happens.
to the walls. We're doing it. To the windows, to the walls. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, and let me judge you.
Yes, please do.
See how
I don't get
off
judged
topic
enough.
You've gone today.
I don't get judged enough as a mom with a hyperactive child. Please. All right. So let's see. My Hollywood urban legend kind of revolves around Wes Craven's The Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, I love it.
I love this movie. And like I say, I don't watch horror movies.
Yeah.
But
What?
this is a
You love
good
this movie?
fucking movie. I love this movie. This
Oh,
movie
I
is-
won't even watch this movie.
Oh, the first one's so good.
Johnny
so good.
Depp's in the first one, isn't he?
I know, and he gets totally murdered.
Totally murdered.
Totally murdered.
Yeah.
Okay, so the idea is that if you die in a dream, you die in real life. And this idea was definitely perpetuated by the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. And I remember being a kid and thinking this was real, that if you died in a dream, you were going to die in real life. So,
I've died in my dreams several.
I have too.
At least like two. I would say maybe like once a year, maybe twice a year. I die in my dreams usually in a plane crash, which is one of the reasons why I don't fly.
Well, yeah, exactly. You don't want to like.
I know when I'm crashing in real life on a plane, I'd be like, God damn it, Kelly, you've been having dreams about this shit for how long? Like this is what you get. This is what you get. This is what you get.
So the short answer is, of course not. If you die in your dreams, you're not going to die in real life. However, it's really impossible to tell that if somebody who has died in their sleep also died in their dream. But we can say that you, me, millions of other people, probably billions of other people have died in their dreams and are still walking around, so it's fine. But while I was researching this, I found some really cool dream facts.
Yeah.
And about, you know, what exactly dreams are and what they do, and whether or not, if you find yourself in a predicament where you might die in your dream, should you pursue it or not? And the answer is yes. You should die in your dream because it strengthens your brain to do things that you wouldn't normally do.
Okay.
Even if it's just for pretend.
Right.
Because your brain thinks that anything that happens in a dream happens for real. So if you get in a fight with a good friend or your boyfriend or your husband or
I used
sister
to get
or
so
whatever,
mad at Ian for cheating on me.
yeah, and it didn't happen, but
I
your
would call
body
him
doesn't
at
know.
work. I'd call him at work.
And bitch and get mad.
I'd be mad. He'd be like, why are you so mad? I'm like, because you cheated on me in my dream last night, you sick son of a bitch. I want a divorce. He'd be like, Kelly.
Because it feels like it happened. It
Yeah,
really feels like it happened.
My brain really felt like it happened. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
sure.
it did happen to your brain.
Right.
It's
Now
the
I
thing.
know why I was so upset at
Yeah.
Ian. Like I knew I was being unreasonable, but I couldn't help myself. I'd be so mad at him.
I know. Matt will wake up every once in a while. Like, oh, I was so pissed at you in a dream. And I was like, well, you know that it's not real, but it's okay. Work through it, and we'll talk about it if you need to, because I understand that you think it really happened. It's
Right.
cool.
Yeah.
So, okay, so a little bit about dreams. Researchers are still trying to decipher what exactly happens while we're sleeping. And there's a clinical psychologist named Ruben Naiman who specializes in integrative sleep and dream medicine at the University of Arizona. And he views the human brain as a second gut. So sort of like how cows have an extra one stomach? Yeah, extra two stomachs, whatever they have.
They have like 4 stomachs or something.
Yeah, they have a million stomachs. Yeah. So to help them process the cellulose, we have our brain while we're sleeping basically processes the day's events, figures out what to keep, what not to keep. And what it does keep becomes memories and informs like who we are. Basically, what has happened during the day that our brain decides to keep makes us who we are. So our dreams are very important, and it's why it's very important to get enough sleep. Okay. So a couple Nito Burrito dream facts.
Yay!
Yay, Nito Burritos. You dream all night long, not just for REM sleep. You dream all night. Now, if you wake up during REM sleep, you're more likely to remember that dream. But we dream even when we're not in REM sleep. People who tend to remember their dreams are more likely to be sensitive to sounds while awake and while sleeping, which means you're probably a lighter sleeper. So that means that you're more likely to wake up during REM sleep and remember your dreams. I remember a lot of my dreams. I'm a very light sleeper, and I do not like loud noises at all. They make me jump a million miles in the air. I don't like loud noises. Dreams take place in real time. So the idea, that myth that, a dream that lasted all night happened in a split second isn't true. It happened, if it lasted all night, it took all night to have that dream. So dreams can last anywhere from a few minutes to even an entire hour. It just depends on how heavy of a sleeper you are, or how tired you were that day, or maybe what happened exhausted you, like how long you're going to sleep. Gender and nightmares. There are definitely some differences between men and women and the nightmares they typically have. So nightmares aren't all about fear. In a 2014 study of 331 participants, it was found that bad dreams don't only stem from fear. They come from feelings of failure, guilt, anxiety, and sadness. And the study also found that men are more likely to have nightmares around aggression and physical violence, whereas women, on the other hand, tend to have nightmares focusing on interpersonal relationships. So, yeah, women are more likely to have a nightmare about why Judy didn't talk to her or why her husband cheated on us, and men are more likely to have a nightmare where they're being physically hurt.
Oh, good.
Yeah, right. Exciting.
There's some men I know who I'd like to... Like when they dream at
physically
night,
hurt.
I'd like them to be full of anxiety because they're getting physically hurt. That is.
There's a few people that I wouldn't mind like killing them in their dream. Like, I mean, if they wouldn't mind inserting me into their dream just so I could murder them one time, that would be kind of cool. But I don't really want to take the time to pursue it in real life.
I don't think I've ever killed anyone in a dream.
I've definitely died, but I don't think I've been murdered in a dream.
I may have. Oh, I've been murdered, or I've had a fight for my life in my dream. Especially like this last year, I used to have really bad nightmares about Tim trying to finish the job.
Sure.
With like a knife or a gun or like all sorts of stuff. Like I had to, and I always escaped and lived. So woohoo! But yeah, those were my nightmares the last year, where I would just like kind of wake up in this house. I would be still together with Tim. But he wouldn't, like, it was after the strangulation, but like right. he had forgotten. Like I just kind of like woke up when we were back together, and like I remembered what had happened between us, but he could never remember. And so my goal was I always had to escape the house before he remembered like all the shit that we went through, because then he would try to kill me again. And so it was a lot of times I was. And it revolved around, like, my stuff, too. So I'd have to, like, but I need to bring my work equipment with me. And so I'd be packing things and trying to take it out of the house and do
without
it, like,
him noticing.
Yeah, and trying, like, not to just trying to get out of there quick before he remembered. And there's been times where, like, he has, like, when he has remembered in my dream, it's apparent. But then we're around other people. So then I have to try to escape before him and I are alone in a room together. Yeah. So that's what my nightmares have been about the last year.
That's horrible, Kelly. I'm very sorry to hear that.
I don't really have them anymore. I think I had one like a month ago. But last summer, I couldn't understand why I'd wake up every morning so sore and exhausted. And then I realized it's because there was a huge thunderstorm one night, and I woke up in the middle of one of my nightmares, and I was tense. My whole body was tense.
Oh, right.
So yeah, it was crazy. Like I could have really used some muscle relaxers to go to sleep. So
yeah, it's the same too. Like if we go for like a hard jog, the stress that's on our body is the same stress that you feel when you are anxious.
Right.
It's like the same thing starts happening to your body.
Right.
It's like everything is connected. So if you're having a bad dream and you're like tensing up, yeah, you're going to feel like you worked out. And you're like, what the hell?
Because you probably really did.
You really
though.
are. Yeah, you really are.
I probably burned like 300 calories during the time I had one of those nightmares.
Okay, so let's get back to Nightmare on Elm Street. So do you know anything about the inspiration for the Nightmare on Elm Street?
I feel like I read it at some point. Was it based on like some janitor Wes Craven knew, or no?
There's a couple of things actually. So let's see. In 1980, director Wes Craven read a news article about 3 young refugees from the Cambodia killing fields who were plagued by horrific nightmares. And side note, if you survived the Cambodian killing fields, you're going to have some horrible fucking shit to deal with.
Right.
Do you know about the Cambodian killing fields?
Yeah, I mean, I've as you know, in California there's a large population of Cambodian people where we used to live, and so all of the Cambodian people I knew in California were refugees.
Right.
They had to leave. Most of them were born in refugee camps in Thailand, but it's because they had to leave the regime in Cambodia in the late 70s, right?
Yeah, so there was shortly after the Cambodian Civil War, Pol Pot and his
Khmer Rouge or something?
Yeah, Khmer Rouge, exactly. Regime killed and buried 3 million people.
Right.
And in some cases, they would make people dig their own graves before shooting them.
Right.
So you would see so many people executed. So these are kids who actually saw it, not born in refugee camps, but were there to see the horrors.
Right. Witness it, yeah.
And so they had these horrible nightmares, and they tried to stay awake because it was too terrifying to fall asleep. And when they finally did fall asleep, because you can only stay awake for so long,
right,
they ended up dying in their sleep. And some witnesses said that they heard them scream or cry out, and then they ran in there to see if they were okay, and they were dead. So this strengthened the idea that they died because of a nightmare.
Right.
So while I was doing research, I found a 1951 Time magazine article that reported on a 37-year-old man by the name of Tutop who worked on a sugar plantation on the island of Oahu. Tutop was otherwise totally healthy, strapping young guy, goes to bed, and dies in his sleep. So this doctor, Dr. Majosaka, he goes and starts investigating the death. He does a post-mortem on Tutop and finds that his pancreas is inflamed and bleeding. And people who get acute pancreatitis, sometimes if it happens while you're sleeping, you wake up every couple of hours and you end up dying because you're just like, oh, my stomach kind of hurts. I'm going to try to go back to sleep. But if it happens during the day, you end up seeking medical attention and you don't usually die. So then he starts looking into it a little more and discovered that Tutop was the 37th Filipino citizen to die of mysterious causes from sleep in Hawaii. So then he starts looking at all these other medical records and finds that about half of them did not have anything wrong with their pancreas. So he's like, okay, well, that might have just been coincidental. What is the underlying cause for this? So he starts looking into it more, and he found that in the Philippines or in Southeast Asian cultures, there is this idea that dreams can kill you. The reason it's so pervasive is because it happens to hundreds of people every year. They just die in their sleep, and they usually cry out right before they're found dead. So it really strengthens this idea. So he starts looking into this dream death thing, thinking that no way is a nightmare doing it. It has to be something else. And he found out there's this thing called Braguda syndrome. And Braguda syndrome is also known as sudden arrhythmic death syndrome. And what happens with SADS, which is also what it's called,
right?
It's a seemingly unexplained death of perfectly healthy people coming from Southeast Asian descent. And they die during sleep from a sudden, irregular heartbeat where your heart just fails to pump blood. And the condition is usually discovered post-mortem, and it's inherited. So you can also find it with an EEG. You would only get an EEG for this congenitive disorder if someone in your family had also died from it and it was discovered post-mortem. I don't know what the treatment might be. I'm not a doctor. I only know what I can understand and relay to you because it's kind of complicated. So many reported that victims of SADS cried out in their sleep before being found dead, and this strengthens the nightmare idea. So Braguda syndrome's propensity to cause sleep deaths has strengthened the belief in sleep demons in Southeast Asian mythology. So back to Freddy Krueger. Guess what Freddy Krueger is?
A sleep demon?
He's a sleep demon.
Yeah.
So this infamous boogeyman from Nightmare on Elm Street gets his name from an actual bully who harassed Wes Craven as a child, which I thought, that's kind of cool. What a great way to immortalize somebody.
First and last name. His Freddy Krueger was probably his full name, right? His real name?
Yep, Freddy Krueger. So Freddy Krueger had a pretty, his how he started life was pretty much doomed from the beginning. He's a product of rape.
Right.
His mom was a nun who was locked in the mental institution that she worked in over a long holiday weekend where she was raped by everybody there. I don't know why they're walking around with nobody watching after them. But so Freddy Krueger is considered the bastard of 1,000 maniacs.
Okay.
He is adopted, but somehow keeps his mom's last name, Krueger. And he is abused, he's molested, he is taught how to torture small animals by his foster parents, mostly his foster dad, which I'm like, good job on you, foster care. Let's screen those people really, really well.
Well, I mean, this is probably like in the 50s or 60s, right?
Yeah.
So we'll
go ahead and let it go. We didn't know enough then. So, Krueger grows up to become a serial killer, but he's one of those serial killers that's got the perfect persona. He's a working person, he's a teacher, he's got a family, and then he kills children, on his off time. And he's known as the Springwood Slasher. So originally, Wes Craven had slated Krueger to be a child molester, but there was this really high-profile molestation case going on at the time called the McMartin preschool molestation. I don't know if you know anything about that.
I don't know.
Okay, so real quickly, the McMartin preschool molestation accusations were started by a mom who ended up coming to the police who said that her son had been molested by his preschool workers. And it was owned by a family, upstanding family, who then are being investigated for endangering children. And these psychologists sit down with these children and start asking them, like, okay, so did anybody ever touch you inappropriately? Kids are saying no. Did anybody do this? And they start just badgering these kids until they start getting what they want. And it ends up being like satanic rituals. The kids had to go into the basement and watch them sacrifice animals. They had to have sex with the animals, right, and all this crazy stuff. So it's like satanic panic, and there's the panic of daycare panic at the same time.
Right.
So these poor people who have done nothing wrong, turns out the mom who came to the police in the first place, was a paranoid schizophrenic, made the whole thing up, but these people's lives were ruined. So there's this high-profile case that's going on. It goes on for years. It was like, at the time, it was the most expensive and longest court case in the United States history because it went on for years. So the producers were like, maybe not a child molester. Maybe Krueger just kills kids.
Right.
That'll be better. Like,
right.
Okay, sure. All right. You guys are paying the bills. I guess that's better. So his weapon of choice is a custom-made glove with razor blades. Ended up becoming steak knives because it was easier. It just made more sense, I guess. Easier to transport, whatever.
My God, I was just thinking about Freddy Krueger in my mind 30 seconds ago, and it's only one glove. I did an Edward Scissorhands on him.
Yeah, right. Make it even scarier.
But no, it's just the one. Okay, right.
It's just
That's
the
right.
one. I think it's his
the
left
one.
hand.
I don't remember. I
Yeah.
do remember that when I was little, my brother had the Freddy Krueger glove.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's still a Halloween staple.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, Craven did all kinds of research, like his red and green sweater. Mm-hmm. So why Christmas colors? Well, it turns out that they are the most clashy colors that you can put together, and they make people incredibly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So he's like, oh, perfect. I'll dress him in that.
Yeah.
I'll put him in Christmas colors. It freaks people out. Freddy Krueger's trial. He gets busted for murdering a bunch of kids, and the parents are pissed because he gets off on a technicality, and a mob of angry parents takes him to the school where the murders happened, chains him to the boiler, and sets the school on fire.
Right.
So now Krueger's dead, and the devil's like, yo, dude, do you want to stay here and burn in hell for all of eternity, or do you want to become a dream demon and continue to kill people in the afterlife? And Freddy is like, I'll do number 2. That sounds awesome. That's how we get Freddy Krueger.
Wow, I knew about like the parents. I knew that about the angry mob, but I didn't know any, and I think it was because of accusations they killed people. I didn't know any of the other backstory. That's really interesting.
Part of it, like in the first Nightmare on Elm Street, it's like in a lot of horror movies, you don't want to reveal the monster too soon. You want to wait. So Krueger's hardly in the first movie. He's just towards the end. You just see little hints like her in the bathtub and his hand coming out in between her legs.
Such a good scene. I probably haven't seen this movie since 1990 because I
haven't either.
I don't know. It scares me. I was just like, and I like scary movies, but this one, I think because I was pretty little when I would see it.
Yeah, we were tiny.
Yeah.
We were little.
That one got me. That one really got me.
The scene in the high school where the body bag is being dragged through.
Oh, I forgot about
and
that.
She's fallen asleep in class, and her friend is like the first girl, the blonde one that gets murdered. She's standing in a clear body bag, so you can kind of see her, and she's like, and then just gets ripped away from the doorway, and then she comes out, and there's like this trail of blood, and the body bag's being dragged, but you can't see who's dragging it.
Right, that's right. Oh my God.
Super creepy. Super creepy. So while I was doing all this research, I came across an urban legend from Amarillo, Texas, about a school where a janitor killed a bunch of kids and then hangs himself. He kills them and then burns them in the boiler.
Right.
And I was like, wow, how like Freddy Krueger? How crazy is this? So in Amarillo, Texas, the Summit Elementary School has now been turned into a church. And it's the location of this horrific urban legend where the locals will swear it's true. So paranormal enthusiasts, aka teenagers, report that ghosts of the janitor and children haunt the building. In addition to restless specters, other reports include that the swings move by themselves and cell phones and radios have a mind of their own in proximity of the school. So if you park near the school and you're waiting for something creepy to happen, your radio might just turn off.
Right.
Or if you have power windows, they go up and down on their own. So why would this janitor, why would he kill these kids? The school was built in 1929 as an all-black school before desegregation. So in 1972, the school closed along with a bunch of other schools because Texas decided that they were just going to go ahead and integrate the schools, and they didn't need as many schools anymore, so the school closed. But right before it closed, the janitor who was also a member of the local chapter of the KKK, couldn't stand the thought of white children being educated alongside black children. So he murdered several of the Summit children in protest to the coming voluntary desegregation plan before hanging himself. Some people say he threw himself off the roof. Depends on how you look at it. But basically, people in Amarillo think this is true, and it never happened.
Okay.
So, quick recap. No matter how scary your nightmares, they're probably not going to kill you unless you have a congenital heart defect.
Right.
The first Nightmare on Elm Street movie is by far the best in the franchise.
Agreed.
The Summit School, which is now the Summit Baptist Church in Amarillo, Texas, is not haunted, and no janitor ever killed kids there.
Yeah, get your shit together.
Yep, exactly. And there really is a syndrome that plagues those from Southeast Asian descent that can otherwise kill healthy people in their sleep.
Interesting.
And that's my entertainment one.
Way to tie it all together.
Thank you. Because it was kind of all over the place, right?
Yeah, but I mean, you had, there were everything tied back together. So,
yeah.
Very interesting, very disturbing and creepy.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't feel good inside now just thinking about Nightmare on Elm Street.
I might have to watch it again, but then I'm like, I can only watch it at night. I don't know if I want to do that.
I don't know. I don't even feel like I see it on TV anymore. I feel like when we were little at Halloween time, it was on every year. But
They redid it in 2010.
They did? Nightmare
Yeah.
on Elm Street?
I don't know if I want to watch the remake. It's probably scarier.
I don't want to watch any remake because none of the remakes seem to be good. I don't know.
And it's like, did they remake Psycho? It's like, why would you remake
They did.
Psycho? That's a perfect movie.
I actually liked the remake.
Did you
of
like
Psycho.
it?
I did, and here's one of the reasons why. Well, that's the one with Vince Vaughn and Anne Heche.
Oh, really? Oh, I love Vince Vaughn.
Yeah, and the director of the new Psycho did it exactly like Hitchcock did. It was all the same setups, all the same camera angles. It was basically the same movie, but in color and with Vince Vaughn and Anne Heche.
Okay. That I could probably watch then.
It was the same dialogue, same shots, same setup, it was everything. And Vince Vaughn's really good as Norman Bates.
Oh, so creepy.
Yeah.
All right, lady, what's yours?
So my Hollywood urban legend is about James Dean's cursed car.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Okay, so a little backstory. James Dean was an actor in the early 1950s. He was born in 1931 in Indiana and moved to Santa Monica as a child. His mom died when he was little, and then after her death, he went back to Indiana to live with his aunt and uncle. It was right before World War II, and his dad is back then a single father, never raised kids if they were widowed. So he grows up with his aunt and uncle. He's raised in a Quaker household. And
interesting.
It's speculated that he was either sexually abused by a Methodist pastor as a child or had and I'm going to put quotes, consensual relationship with this Methodist pastor when he was like 18-ish, 17, 18 years old, which I would actually still call abuse because James Dean knew the pastor when James Dean was a child.
Right.
And so even if he was the age of consent, because he was like 17 or 18, I still think that the pastor probably spent years grooming him, and it still would be considered abuse from someone
because he's in a
position of power.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's just that's my little rant. I'm just like
putting that out there.
So but it should be noted that this pastor seems to have a large impact on James Dean and his interests in life. That included bullfighting, car racing, and theater.
Okay.
So James Dean excelled in high school. He was very popular. We do know he was very cute. And he was in drama, basketball, on the debate team. And then when he graduated high school, he moved back to Santa Monica to study pre-law at Santa Monica College. And then he transferred to UCLA to study drama in 1951. And this change of career path caused him to become estranged from his father. So this is 1951. He is in some commercials and he's doing some extra roles. And then he moves to New York City and starts appearing on television. And then he was accepted into the Actors Studio to study method acting under Lee Strasberg.
He was definitely a method actor.
So method acting is an acting technique where the actors become the characters they're playing. Yeah. The father of method acting in America is Lee Strasberg, who became director of the Actors Studio in 1951, which is the nation's most prestigious acting school. It's kind of, think of like how Juilliard is for dance.
Right.
And then in 1954, James Dean goes back to Hollywood to shoot his first film, East of Eden, which is based on a Steinbeck novel. Mm-hmm. And then in 1955, he stars in Rebel Without a Cause,
right,
which is his most iconic film role. He has a third movie that comes out after his death in 1956 called Giant.
Right.
So he was really not a very big actor. His breakout role was Rebel Without a Cause, but he's still so iconic to this day. And I was thinking kind of like, why? Like, he wasn't really in any movies, but I think that like Robert Pattinson, mm-hmm. Twilight, Edward, mm-hmm. I think that like if he died in a car accident right after Twilight came out, like he
oh my God.
Yeah. Okay. That's kind of like how it would be like.
Legendary.
Forever and ever. He'll be young forever and ever. Or kind of like River Phoenix, so.
Right.
Okay. So James Dean, he dies September 30th, 1955. So that would have made him like 24 years old in a car accident. So he had just started car racing a couple years prior to his death and was competing in events. And he drove a Porsche 550 Spider, whatever that is, called Little Bastard. And so he was driving it from LA to a race in Salinas. And on the way, he T-boned a car and he died instantly. But the driver of the other car was okay.
Right.
So Little Bastard is a Porsche 550 Spider, whatever that is. It was custom painted. It had a silver base. It had 2 red stripes over the rear wheels, and it had the number 130 on its doors, hood, and engine cover. And then Little Bastard was painted, I think, on one of the doors. So legend has it that Alec Guinness, the actor who played Obi-Wan Kenobi, told Dean that the car had a sinister look to it and that if James Dean would drive it, he would be dead in a week. And he died.
Oh.
And he died 7 days later.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan, come on now. Like, you're just supposed to be like the Jedi Master in the movie.
Not in real life.
I bet he felt like shit later.
Well, he called it. He was probably like, I told you, bro. So after Dean's accident and death, the guy who had customized the car bought the wrecked body. And as they were transporting it, it slipped off of the trailer and broke a mechanic's leg.
Oh, my God.
And then the engine and drivetrain and various parts were sold to other race car drivers who, when racing each other in cars with Little Bastard's parts, one hit a tree and died, and the other was seriously injured when his car locked up and rolled in the same race.
Wow, really? So Little Bastard's parts were in like 3 different cars?
2 different cars, and
okay.
One of both cars crashed. One driver died, and the other one was seriously injured. So then 2 of Little Bastard's wheels were sold that had been intact at the time of the accident. They're original. They blew out simultaneously and caused an accident.
Wow.
And then 2 thieves broke into the garage where the car, like the body of the car was, and tried to steal the steering wheel and then the blood-stained seat that James Dean died in.
Nice. Classy.
And both thieves were injured in the process and like had to go to the hospital and get stitches kind of injuries.
Wow.
So after all of these incidents, the owner of the car decided that he wanted to hide the car.
But
he
might have just bury the car at this point. Like,
right.
You feel culpable. Like, you're part of the problem.
Yeah.
You have to get rid of the car.
Pour a bunch of pink salt over it.
Yeah, exactly. Full moon, some
crystals,
some crystal water. Yeah. Sage, a lot of sage. I mean, so much sage.
So much sage, right. So he was going to hide the car, but the California Highway Patrol convinced him to lend them the car for a highway safety exhibit. But the garage caught fire that the car was in and burned to the ground. And so this, like, the California Highway Patrol had, like, I think a big warehouse that they had highway safety exhibits in. And so they were going to show the dangers of, like, driving really fast and T-boning a car. And they have this wrecked body of the car James Dean dies in. Right. So the garage the exhibit's in catches fire and burns to the ground. Little bastard is undamaged.
I'm sorry, I'm drinking water. No. Okay, I don't believe in supernatural stuff. This is all just like really bad coincidences, but now I'm starting to think that the fucking car actually is demonic.
Cursed. So the next exhibit the car was in was at a high school, and it fell out of its display and broke a student's hip who was standing nearby.
Oh my God. Are people just like neglectful when they take care of this car? Like, do they not know how to mount a car? Like, what?
So
what is happening right now?
After all this happened, like, they're like, we gotta stop putting this car in exhibits, you know?
Yeah.
So they transport little bastard back to, like, some, I don't know, probably California Highway Patrol garage from this high school. The truck carrying the car lost control, which caused the driver to fall out of the cab. And then he got crushed by a little bastard because it fell off the back of the truck.
Can you see my face right now?
I can. And then the car fell off two more transport trucks. The California Highway Patrol decided they had enough of little bastard and sent him back to its owner. And the car,
who tried to get rid of it. Okay, CHP, I'm sorry. You fucking earned that.
The car disappeared during transport back to the original owner and hasn't been seen since. And that is
the devil took it back.
And that is the story of James.
Freddy Krueger
Dean's
drives it now.
Cursed car.
So now the myth is that James Dean was driving recklessly when he was in the accident, but it was just an accident. He really wasn't speeding, right?
Well, I think he might have been speeding.
Okay, because
I wouldn't say he was driving recklessly. I think what happened was he was driving straight, like on a highway. But this is in the 1950s, so a highway is a 2-lane highway, and
right.
You know, and so a car that was coming the other way turned left across James Dean's lane to turn down left on a road, and that's how he got T-boned. So I don't know I think he may have been speeding, though. I mean, he was driving it from LA to Salinas for a race, and I think he hadn't had the car that long, so we can assume he was driving it fast. My brother has a Porsche, and he drives that car like he's the biggest douchebag asshole ever. He drives it like, we live in the mountain roads, and so it's like the speed limit is 30 miles an hour a lot of places around here. I mean, he goes like 60 through canyons, passing people with his loud ass engine. Like, you don't buy a Porsche like that and drive it like a grandma.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say recklessly. I would say he was probably speeding, but I think it really was just like an accident. I think that could have really been prevented.
There's actually a monument you can go and look at where it happened. I've been there before.
Oh, okay. Cool.
They have like a little wall with like a plaque up where he died.
Right.
Because the guy that hit him, I think, was a local guy to Salinas, like in the area. He lived in the area.
Yeah, and I think he was like in a truck or something, and James Dean was in
a little Porsche.
In a little Porsche that's very low to the ground. You know, those cars you're going to be fucked if you're in an accident in a little car like that.
Yeah, that's why a lot of people drive big trucks, because they'll win in an accident.
Yep.
That was good. I don't think I've ever heard of that creepy-ass car before. So, has that car, do you know if it's inspired anything? Because I'm thinking Christine, Stephen King.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably safe to say. I mean, obviously the comparison is made a lot between James Dean Carr, and then you can't help but not mention Christine with it. The only reason why I would say no is because I'm going to say this like I know Stephen King personally, but I know that Stephen King gets really paranoid about having original ideas. So I would think that he wouldn't be so inclined to take this story and turn it into Christine.
Yeah, 3 movies, and like you think about Buddy Holly and how everybody knows who Buddy Holly is. He only did like 1 album.
Yeah.
And he was only filmed 1 time.
Right.
That was it. But he died at the height of his fame. So it's just, and plus he died with the Big Bopper and Richie Valens. So it adds to this whole, like, the legend.
He had gotten a speeding ticket like a couple hours before. At 5:15 p.m., Dean and Hickman, I guess he must have been with someone.
Yeah, it was a passenger. It was his mechanic.
At approximately 5:45, a Ford Tudor, driven at high speed, was headed on the route. He made a left turn. Oh, I think it was the other drivers.
It was speeding.
Yeah, and he shouldn't have turned left. He should have waited till Dean went by.
Yeah.
He turned in front of him. So it was the fault of the other driver.
Right. So he was speeding. He probably thought he could get in front of him.
Yeah, right.
That sucks, to be in an accident and kill somebody.
Yeah.
That totally sucks. Especially he's only 23-year-old. Like, he's a baby himself.
Right. They're like almost the same age.
Yeah. Ugh. And you kill James Dean.
Although
Fuck.
Right, exactly.
Well, cool. I like that. This was a fun one.
I know. It was a lot of fun. I thought so too. I'd actually was going to do the 27 Club.
I don't know what that is.
Oh, it's well, we'll do it briefly because it is interesting. It's a really good one. Do you remember, because I know I heard this in college, we may have been together when we heard it, that there was this blues musician, I think in the 20s or 30s from down south, who went to the crossroads and sold his soul to the devil to be able to play blues music.
I've heard that.
Yeah, so his name was Robert Johnson, and he died at the age of 27. Kurt Cobain died when he was 27. Jim Morrison died when he was 27. Janis Joplin died when she was 27. River Phoenix died when he was 27. Jean-Michel Basquiat died when he was 27. Amy Winehouse died when she was 27.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And then there's this kind of like this thing too, like it takes Saturn 27 years to do a full rotation or something like that. Like it kind of like it has to go in. It's kind of ties in the legend, I think. Selling your soul to the devil or becoming this otherworldly musician with all this talent. You die young, but it has to do with 27 years after your birth. Saturn comes back around to where it was when you were born, and it has it's trippy.
Okay.
But I don't know. I just sort of like wasn't really feeling it, and I don't know what made me think of James Dean's car.
No, that car was so good. That's super creepy.
But then I thought, well, maybe I'll just do the James Dean's car, and I like knocked it out in 10 minutes. I was like, this is fun. Like, this is a good one. This is the one I'm supposed to be doing.
Mine was like the deep dive into dreams, and then
I really liked
did a little bit on
the
Cambodian killing fields and like poor people who were dying with this congenital, like mysterious heart thing. I was like, oh my God, there's so much fucking information here right now. How am I going to tie it all together? My recap helped.
Yes, it did. You did.
Yes.
It was like a nice, lovely paper.
Well, that was fun. Thank you for listening. This has been Demiworld. I'm Cyndi.
And I'm Kelly.
Thanks. Bye.
This has been Demiworld. You can follow us on Facebook at Demiworld Podcast and Twitter at DemiworldCast. You can write us at demiworldpodcast@gmail.com. You can find the cast anywhere podcasts live or at our website, demiworld.net. And remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for listening.